Hello, my name is Hope. I am canonically an INTJ, but I suppose in your headcanon I can be whatever you want me to be. And today we have the most accurate Enneagram test. That is quite a bold claim. We're here in the Enneagram universe. Here we go. I always like this screen to be huge, and I want to be just like a little intrusive thought just entering into the screen. Score the statements, almost never, rarely, sometimes frequently, almost always. 180? Jesus, I'm not coming out of this alive. Okay, just know that my head is almost always over the almost always. And then I'll move myself slightly that way, and my hair is just doing its thing. It's living its best life. Okay. Oh, 180, Jesus Christ. Okay. Safety and security are priorities in my life. Speaking from a place of privilege and recognizing that place of privilege, I do have a certain amount of safety and security, and I have bought some of that safety and security with my hard-earned wages. So I'll go with sometimes. Know how to get people to like me. I kind of know how this works, but I don't really participate in the actions because I think it's manipulative. I feel that something is missing in my life. No, I'm doing pretty good. I can see what is and is not there. I feel different from others, as if on the outside looking in. As an INTJ, I think you're always gonna get a bit of that because it just happens naturally. Separating yourself from the action of the moment. I think a lot of introverts do that. I enjoy having elegant, refined, unique things that no one else has. It doesn't have to be something that other people don't have. It has to be important to me and my functionality and how I live my life. I believe it is important to understand my own and other people's feelings. I think it's important. People may find it difficult to follow my train of thought. Sometimes I make certain associations that in my mind make a lot of sense, but I don't always show my work of how I got there, so people don't necessarily follow. I've been goal-oriented for as long as I remember. Yeah, that's true. I strive to be unique and have done things to avoid being ordinary. I do enjoy having a unique identity. Everyone who has introverted feeling somewhere in their ego stack has a bit of this. It just happens to be third priority for me, so I would say sometimes. Motivated by the need to protect myself and my loved ones and to be powerful and in control of my life. If you feel this way on a very, very deep level, I think you need to be careful because you might end up exhibiting behaviors of not only just kind of controlling your own life and the environment around you, you might end up being manipulative and controlling others. I say sometimes. I tend to be honest, competent, and charming when not stressed. I would love to think that I'm charming when not stressed. That would be nice. I would say honest and competent, usually, is more accurate. I tend to be fun-loving, imaginative, and optimistic when not stressed. I love a little bit of safe fun. Imagination play, for sure. Definitely want to be more on the optimistic side. I believe that negative feelings are an obstacle to getting the job done. I do. I think your state of mind is really important to the success of your actions. If you're very much catastrophizing, if you're sort of dooming the situation, you actually might not perform as well. I tend to be open-minded, receptive, and very patient when not stressed. That's very true. I think that's the most true of all of the I tend to be when not stressed. I have a strong need to be noticed, liked, and appreciated for what I do for others. Appreciated, yes. Recognized with praise, no. I kind of need the feedback of being appreciated so I can continue doing the actions that are helpful to other people. I am motivated by being outstanding and being recognized for my personal success and achievements. This is definitely an extroverted thinking thing. Because it's my second function, my tool function, it's not as important to me. I would like to be seen as someone that is successful and has achieved things. But I think I have some scope and some perspective, and I can step back and see that that's obviously not the most important thing and it should be balanced. I tend to socialize with people who are interested in the same things I am. I think it's hard to socialize with people in general. If I know we have a common interest, that will be the sort of central object or subject that we talk about. And so it helps the socialization process. I enjoy having control of my own time and private space, absolutely. introverts and the most introverted type, the INTJ for sure. I like people to depend on me and deliver on my promises. Yeah, I think that's true. I may hesitate while I try to organize my thoughts and may not speak at all if I'm not comfortable with what I want to say. That really describes me. I don't know if I would describe it as hesitance, but there is a moment of stepping back and saying, okay, first of all, formulating my thoughts, like, what do I want to say about this? But also, like, is what I have to say any more important than what anyone else would say? Is this the right environment? What is the value of what I'm going to say? And then what are the consequences? It may seem like I'm processing information slower, but the fact that I'm analyzing so many different factors before deciding to speak or not to speak, I'm actually processing quite quickly. I'm just processing a lot of things before I make that decision to say something. To impress, I may take on too much and make promises I can't keep. No, I'm very like resource minded. When afraid of something, I've done what was necessary to overcome my fear. I think you need to keep on pushing against the limitations, the constraints that hold you back, especially if they are psychological constraints. I think you should continue to try to fight and push against those. It can be a little dangerous, though. Sometimes you can get yourself into some situations that you're not prepared for. But ultimately, I think the pros outweigh the cons. When I find work that I like, I can be very productive and enthusiastic. Yeah. I tend to be more emotional than most people I know. I'm at the bottom sort of that list of most people. I feel that life is to be enjoyed, and I'm optimistic about the future. I'm not optimistic necessarily about the world in which we live, like I understand that. But, I think to continue living, you have to have some sort of thing to look forward to and push towards. I like to entertain and enjoy telling stories and getting laughs. I don't think I'm particularly competent at entertaining people. And then getting laughs is like not usually a goal. The only person I'm ever trying to amuse or make laugh is myself. It's just for me. My jokes are for me, and if you also enjoy them, then thank you. I appreciate that. But mostly I'm just trying to enjoy myself. I'm so selfish in that way, I have lots of friends and acquaintances and support them by cheering them up. Not quite it for me. I tend to be distant, stubborn, and pessimistic when stressed. Okay, distant, yes. Stubborn, not necessarily. Pessimistic, a little bit. So I'll go sometimes on this. I see myself as caring and helpful and like to make people feel special and loved. I don't really see myself as being the best at that, but maybe sometimes. I tend to spin the facts and be overly self-promoting when stressed. No, if anything, it's probably the opposite. I don't mind working alone and enjoy being self-sufficient for sure. Personal integrity is extremely important to me, yes. I feel uncomfortable around loud, emotional people. Imagine if the loud emotion is anger. I would feel very uncomfortable around that. If it's sort of like positive exuberance, that's fine. Erratic behavior that's unwarranted for the circumstances of the environment that's going on, that's going to make me feel uncomfortable because it's going to activate that sort of threat or danger sense. But it's fine for people to be loud and emotional. I just don't necessarily want them to include me in that or expect the same. So sometimes I do. I believe it is important for people to be with other people or to belong to a group or an organization. As long as you are alive on the face of this planet and there are so many other people around, it is important to be able to be around other people and to belong to a group. But, you gotta find your people that are additive to your life. I dislike confrontation and try to keep the peace. Yeah, I think that's true. I try to prepare for every contingency. I think you can't prepare for every contingency, and that's part of having introverted intuition first, is kind of recognizing that. Sometimes introverted intuition is treated incorrectly. I have realized every possibility, and I have prepared a contingency plan for every single possibility, and it's not that at all. You have this sort of like flexibility with scoping in these time and possibility elements, taking in everything sort of holistically, kind of narrowing it down to like the most likely occurrences. You're weighting those or assigning the probability of those happening. It's kind of like your general risk assessment that you would do at any kind of company whenever you are designing your controls to mitigate risk. Introverted intuition, especially when paired with extroverted thinking, does that on its own. I am talkative, playful, and at times uninhibited. The inhibitions that I have are just part of my personality, and I wouldn't be who I am without those inhibitions. I tend to be intolerant, inflexible, and demanding when stressed. Okay, we're back to being stressed. This I don't think is true. I find it easy to adapt to different people and situations. Easy? No. I try, It's not necessarily easy, but I do try. I tend to be moody, withdrawn, and self-absorbed when stressed. A little bit, but I wouldn't say it's the main sort of mode. I enjoy trying many things and can do many different things fairly well. Because I have sort of this bent towards learning new things, it means I have a certain amount of like transferable baseline skill, and I can sort of pick up on things and learn things, like learning as a skill. So my base starting level for doing things is pretty competent. But once you get into it, you definitely hit a plateau, because it's like I don't have the requisite skills in order to do this, and it takes like years and years to gain those requisite skills, and sometimes it takes certain capabilities in your base form, especially physical things. And I don't always have those baseline starting abilities to begin with. I'd say sometimes. I can be caught in a fantasy world of romance and imagination. I think this is true, but I have a very strict separation between fantasy and reality. Like, I have a very, very, very strong grip on what is real and what is not real. But I do like to hobby divert myself with sort of storytelling and fantasy elements. So I'll say sometimes. I tend to see the glass as half empty and look for what needs fixing. Usually, when I'm looking for what needs fixing, it's like, what strengths can I expand upon? I'm actually seeing the glass as it is in the future. And in the future, the glass is more full. There is pessimism and problem solving baked into this question, so I'll go sometimes. I enjoy the sense of independence that comes from living frugally. Yeah, I do. For sure. I have difficulty seeing the gray areas of an issue and tend to see things in black and white. No, very nuanced complexity type of person. I like to be on the go and may appear hyperactive to people. I will never appear hyperactive to people. I tend to be shy and withdrawn, especially at social events. I don't like the idea of the shyness aspect. Withdrawn is true. I tend to be idealistic and ambitious and want to contribute something positive to the world. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would like to contribute something positive while I'm here. To the world, that's a bit of a broad scope. To my immediate localized environment, yeah. I tend to be possessive and demanding when stressed. I think this can come out sometimes when I'm stressed. If someone is taking something from me or using my resources, I'm going to be a bit protective of that. I am never possessive of people, though. It's usually related to like resources. I tend to do things in excess and always want more. No, like I tend to be pushing things away. There's too much. Making decisions on my own may cause me anxiety. No. I am easygoing, laid back, and optimistic. I'd like to think so. I tend to take things too seriously and overreact to small issues. No, I mean, this is part of being laid back and understanding that sometimes things happen. You have to kind of amuse yourself with your observations. Yeah, develop your sense of humor. Don't always take things too seriously. There's definitely a broad part of the population who doesn't take things too seriously. And, you need to join them. Otherwise, you're always going to be seen as this sort of like uptight person who can't take a joke, can't have fun, and that kind of hurts your ability to socialize and interrelate with people. You don't want to be overreacting to small issues. You don't want to be that person. I like feeling indispensable and helping others become successful. Yeah. I work very hard at maintaining relationships. If they're close personal relationships, but there's certain issues like proximity and how much does the other person value the relationship? In relationships, I seek harmony and peace through a sense of belonging or by bonding with the other person. That's not how I would phrase it. I don't like that description, so I'm going to say no. I am suspicious of others and wonder about their motives. I do wonder about people's motives, but I'm not inherently suspicious. I would like to learn about the motivations and understand that so that I can create like a closer, genuine connection to the person. I try to avoid confrontations. Yeah. I have difficulty making decisions because everything looks good. I can sometimes see the value in multiple options. So thinking through kind of what would be the best option usually takes a little bit longer for me to make the decision. I wouldn't say it's inherently because everything looks good. It's just like there needs to be a little bit more time to analyze sort of like the pros and cons of something. Sometimes. Friends and family provide the support I feel is necessary in life. It's important to develop a support system, and that might be like a chosen family. I may do routine and unimportant things before I tackle an important job. Sometimes I will stall out on something that's really important because maybe there's something in my thinking about it that hasn't quite fallen into place. So in the meantime, I will do like smaller sort of productive tasks as I work through my issues with the bigger project. I am attracted to what is intense and out of the ordinary. I think so. I love to be challenged and enjoy a good fight. I do not enjoy a good fight unless I'm watching it, like UFC. Metaphorically speaking, I do like a challenge, but I wouldn't phrase it in terms of a fight. Or verbally. I don't like verbal fights. I am critical of myself. I am my own worst critic. And I find it easy to be judgmental and critical of other people as well. No. I can sometimes be my own worst critic because, who else is taking up the job? I don't find that extending to other people necessarily. I hate to be bored and avoid doing boring, mundane things. Yeah, but it's like, what is your interest level? What engages you? The things that I find engaging and entertaining might be boring to other people. So I think that's up for interpretation. I thrive in environments where I can express my creativity. I do like expressing creativity. I tend to be romantic and long for the great love of my life to come along. No, I'm far too practical for that. I want to be number one, and I'm confident in my abilities. I don't think I have to be number one or a perfectionist. I am typically confident in my abilities. So when I am employing my abilities towards a certain task, it's usually because I'm pretty confident that I can succeed and be good at it. I enjoy spending time alone, pursuing my personal interests. Oh yeah. Routine and structure help me stay focused and accomplish things. Routine, no. Structure, yes. I tend to be more comfortable expressing ideas than emotions, especially spontaneously. Ideas? Yeah. I'm more comfortable expressing that. I'm just not really emotionally expressive. Yeah, I like spontaneous ideas. I can be deeply hurt by the slightest criticism. I think you need to develop a thicker skin. Sorry to say that, but you can't continue to be deeply hurt by everything. You'll never make it in this world. So if you are a youngin' out there in the world, if you're one of those other like 5 random strays that come along and stumble upon this because, I don't know, you're interested in Enneagram or something, I need you to know that you cannot continue to be deeply hurt by the slightest criticism. For me, criticism, it depends on the source. If I highly value the source and they're being critical of me, it's going to hurt. Okay, I can be critical, cynical, and argumentative and can act intellectually superior. I know that INTJs and INTPs, I think ENTPs, ENTJs, really, is it the NTs who can be very intellectually superior? I could see ESTJ too. It really depends on your attitudes and stuff, but I could see INTJs falling into this unfortunate sort of pattern. I think you need to let this go a little bit, like intellectual superiority. I think you'll enjoy life more if you do. I look for danger, unsafe people, or unsafe situations. I look out for it. So this is what's happening here. Are you seeking it to participate in it, or are you seeking it as a threat assessment? Because that could go either way. So I think you need to redesign this question, test makers. I'm gonna go sometimes so I can avoid it. I like taking risks and the excitement of competition. I'm not very competitive, and I'm not a risk taker. I consider relationships the most important part of my life. Not the most important. Very important, though. Relationships can vastly change the experience that you have in your life, so I think they're very important. Most important? Maybe not. I enjoy supporting the careers of people whom I care about and who deserve it. Oh yeah, definitely. I tend to be overly sensitive. If this is true, sorry to say, I think it is something that is worth working on. I dislike being around pessimistic, negative people. It depends on the other qualities of the person. How frequent is the pessimism and negativity coming out? I have trouble saying no to requests. Sometimes you really just gotta set those boundaries, and it's like, okay, how do I preserve this relationship while setting my boundaries? I prefer people not to know how I feel or what I think unless I tell them. Oh, I think that's kind of true. The neutral affect and the emotionally neutral, less expressive thing comes out. I avoid expressing negative feelings and like to compliment and flatter people. If I am giving someone a compliment, it's usually me expressing admiration or appreciation for someone. And it is the most genuine, sincere thing because it's just a fact, how I feel about the person. I tend to be withdrawn, forgetful, stubborn, and passive-aggressive when stressed. Passive-aggressive, no. Forgetful when stressed? That's an interesting one. I'm just forgetful all the time. Withdrawn? Yes. This grouping of things is a little bit strange for me. I fear being criticized or judged as being improper by other people. Are we in extroverted feeling land? No. I become frustrated if there is not enough time to do all the fun things I want to do. I feel like that's an ENFP right there. Or extroverted sensing dominant type. ESFP, ENFPs, unite. Too much to do or too many decisions to make can make me angry, anxious, and or depressed. Sometimes I can get overwhelmed by how much there is to do, but usually it takes a lot of piling on for that to happen. Logistics, things I don't want to do, that sort of things. I'll go early on that. I enjoy analyzing things, gathering data, and figuring out what makes things tick. Yes. I tend to be reflective and to search for the meaning of my life, for sure. I tend to be rebellious, controlling, and insensitive when stressed. Rebellious? Perhaps. I could see that. Controlling? Maybe of certain things. Not of people, but being controlling of sort of the environment or enacting a plan. And insensitive. Yeah, this one is probably more of the thing that's true for an INTJ when stressed. I can see it. Getting a product to market before the competition is more important than holding it back until it's perfect. There's some truth and value in the minimally viable product because then you can get feedback about what works for the different people who will be using the product. And then what you need to do, ideally, is take that feedback and improve the product. Sometimes companies don't do that. They don't take the profit and the feedback and they don't improve the product. And that sucks. I think I do agree with this. With the caveat, yes, please improve and iterate upon the product. I take pride in being self-disciplined, moderate, and fair. Do I take pride in that? I think it's just who I am. I can be prideful about who I am, I suppose. Sure, why not? I value strength and autonomy, take pride in taking care of my own needs, and expect others to do the same for themselves. Yeah, I think sometimes unfairly, I kind of expect others to be able to take care of themselves and their own needs. But I'm older and wiser now. I recognize that not everyone operates self-sufficiently like that. I do value strength and autonomy, though. I have a strong sense of responsibility, and I am a hard worker. I think that's true. I work hard and I know how to get things done. Yeah. Slay. I tend to be insightful, objective, and sensitive when not stressed. I think that's true. I doubt my own decisions and opinions about myself. Not typically. I do not consider being a perfectionist a negative thing and like to make sure all the details are just right. Having some perfectionist tendencies can be important or helpful. It depends on if you want to go down that path, right? You know, perfectionist passion projects that do get released into the world are really amazing. But at what cost? It's definitely not my path. I find it difficult to forgive and can carry a grudge for a long time. My memory isn't good enough to carry grudges. I tend to be suspicious, anxious, and defensive when stressed. I could see being defensive. Suspicious, maybe a little bit. Anxious, sure. But, you know, those words are so broad. I'll go sometimes. I value the belief that everything is going to be all right, yet often lack faith in this belief. Everything might be okay or fine eventually, like it might get back to that state. But there's so much in between now and then. How much damage are you going to incur before everything is fine? I can be forgetful, neglectful, and fuzzy about details. I try not to be. When feeling relaxed, I tend to be friendly and responsive to people. Yeah, for sure. I tend to be compassionate, expressive, and supportive when not stressed. Fortunately, no. I am creative and have an artistic view of life. I think so. I believe that rules, regulations, policies, and procedures have a purpose and should be followed, and I'm frustrated when others break rules. So the first part is correct. I am an internal auditor, so I very much believe in the purpose of these things. I'm frustrated when others break rules, to a certain extent, but I think in average everyday life and outside of business, I can kind of understand it. If I was like in business, I'd be like, Don't do it. But in everyday life, grace being extended to people, benefit of the doubt, that sort of thing. I'll go sometimes. I feel envious of other people's relationships, lifestyles, and accomplishments. Nah. I tend to be excited and impatient about accomplishing plans. INTJs can be very methodical. In our minds, our plans are kind of like eventualities, and we just keep on going towards that. When feeling anxious, I can be overly vigilant and controlling. Sometimes. I have ideas, theories, and opinions about almost everything. Opinions, not necessarily. Ideas and theories, for sure, yeah. I value looking good, presenting a good first impression, and dressing for success. I think professionalism is important. I say sometimes. I am motivated by the need to maintain peace of mind and harmony in my life. Peace of mind, yes. I tend to be caring, warm, and loyal when not stressed. I think people just don't see me that way, so... I tend to go overboard in the pursuit of fun and pleasure. Yeah, that doesn't happen. I have difficulty admitting I'm wrong. I think this is true. I can do it, and I think it's important that I do admit that I'm wrong when I'm wrong. I care about the information, and I need the correct information, so I should definitely admit when I'm wrong. I can feel angry even though I might look peaceful. I'm not really an angry person. I get tired easily and would love to take time during the day to relax and renew my energy. Oh, for sure. I need to feel close to people and feel rejected and hurt if I don't experience that closeness. As a type that sometimes forgets that people exist. I do feel the need to be close to certain people, the chosen few, and I would feel very rejected or hurt if wasn't able to establish that relationship at that deeper level. So I'll go sometimes. In a relationship, it has been difficult for me to trust the commitment of the other person. Yeah, I don't have that problem. When misunderstood, I can become withdrawn, self-conscious, and/or rebellious. Oh, maybe this is like the most accurate. Oh, when misunderstood, not necessarily when stressed. I think of Wicked, the Broadway musical, and Elphaba, who is clearly an INTJ. There's a whole propaganda campaign that kills her public persona. She is so deeply misunderstood, no good deed. That sort of rebellious side that comes out in her, defying gravity, that sort of thing. And yeah, she withdraws from society and kind of becomes that rebellious party. It is something that commonly hits for INTJs for sure. I think if I'm being honest, I would choose almost always. I tend to experience more melancholy than most people I know. You can get in some really deep, emotionally complex states. I don't know. I don't really know most people, so let's go frequently. I have acted inappropriately, undisciplined, and/or rebellious when stressed. Now this is untrue. I value exceeding standards and rising to the top of my profession. Oh yeah, I would like to do that, for sure. Manners and good taste are extremely important to me. I think you should be respectful. If we're talking about social convention, little hidden rules and stipulations, the classism, I'm not really into that. So I'm gonna go early. I need to feel stimulated and like new, fun, exciting, and different things. Sometimes I tend to be more logical than emotional. Yeah, sure. I can act like a martyr when not appreciated. Yeah, I think this is bad behavior. You should stop that. Giving feels more comfortable than receiving. I think that's true. I feel I must take charge because I'm the strongest and most decisive person in the group. Shout out to extroverted thinking. I don't often feel that way. I like to be gracious, outgoing, and connected with people. That seems like extroverted feeling. Outgoing, can't do it. Connected with people, sure, but I feel like it's different than the context of this question. I believe that competition is a good thing and tend to be very competitive. I think competition has a place, especially in maybe games. In other realms of life, I don't tend to love competition. I like doing more than one or two things at a time. I enjoy multitasking. I don't think I'm capable of it. I dislike people nagging me. This makes me quite stubborn. If people are nagging you, it's usually because you're either unaware of their needs or you're unresponsive, or they're just terrible people. All of those situations can be remedied so that you reduce the nagging that happens in your life. I value finding the most practical, effective way to do a job. Yeah, I love to work and be productive, and work has tended to be a top priority in my life. Oh, for sure. I tend to be rational, reasonable, and accepting when not stressed. Yes. People feel comfortable telling me their problems. I would hope so. I don't know if other INTJs out there have experienced this, but I can sometimes be a little bit of a flycatcher in terms of people who are going through internal emotional conflict or transformative changes in their life. I am just some sort of weird spirit guide that helps them through whatever transformation, and then they leave me, and then there comes the grief of loss. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has kind of experienced that. Yeah, sure. I am sensitive to criticism, but try to hide that sensitivity. Oh, yeah. I think that's a very INTJ thing. Sensitive to criticism that comes from sources of reputation. If it's not a source that I value, then I can dismiss the criticism rather easily. I am super sensitive to possessive people. They make me feel uncomfortable. Yeah, like you can kind of feel the possessiveness, and it really makes my skin crawl. Yeah, I'm like, danger. I am motivated by the need to be appreciated, loved, and connected to people. So this is gonna have to be a sometimes for me, I feel like. Because it depends on, like, the context, I think. I have difficulty understanding why people settle for second best. I can understand it. Sometimes I have difficulty though, because I'm like, you're worth more than this and you should not settle for this. I don't really trust anybody I haven't known for a long time. I operate along the lines of trust but verify, because I'm open to learning about and understanding someone, and I don't want to immediately make snap judgments. So there is a certain level of trust and acceptance that happens immediately, but there's also skepticism. It's a little bit more balanced. I am easily annoyed by people who act unintelligent or uninformed. I think it's the uninformed part that gets me. In intimate relationships, I value being told that I'm loved and wanted. I don't really need words of affirmation, so I don't necessarily have this insecurity. I like to leave my options open. Don't hem me in describes me well. I like to have control of my options. I don't necessarily leave them open per se. I also don't like to be hemmed in, let me tell you. I tend to worry more than other people. Sometimes. I tend to procrastinate and ignore problems or brush them under the rug. No, I mean, you gotta handle that sort of head on. I like expressing my power and being the boss and or being in charge. No, it's not for me. I've been told I am not in touch with my emotions. Over the course of my life, sure. But I think that's very rude to say. I think I have a decently high emotional quotient, EQ, emotional intelligence. I've studied communication. I've observed and I've learned certain patterns, and I'm very reasonable and practical and fairly well balanced. I'm good at avoiding conflict and mediating conflict, seeing multiple perspectives, playing devil's advocate, very well within the realm of what an INTJ is capable of. It's why we make very good consultants, and often because we have that sort of emotional distance. So being told this is deeply rude, I think. But, it tends to happen in life, and you just have to be like, whatever, you don't know me. Yeah, sometimes. I prefer being with people as opposed to being alone. I can be a homebody and enjoy the comfort of peace of home. Yeah, that's true. That's why I'm on the internet, That's the joke, right, behind the INTJs. You can only find them on the internet, and on the internet you find them in droves. Who knows if all of the INTJs who are claiming INTJ-ness are actually INTJs, but you can find them everywhere, especially in terms of, like, YouTube content, so. I rely on facts rather than emotions to make decisions. Yeah. I'm told I'm a nice person and dislike putting myself first. The things that people express about me to my face is not like, oh, you're a nice person. I feel like that's not the number one thing on their mind whenever they're describing me. We'll go with rarely. I am motivated by the need to acquire security and social support. No. I value being well organized and punctual in myself and others. Yeah, especially when it's like task-based, when there is a purpose involved. If you're able to be organized within that, then it shows a really high respect for other people's time. People have seen me as overly dramatic. No, I think that's never been a thing. I tend to go along with what people say just to get them off my back. Whatever, man, whatever you say, it's fine. It's not worth a fight. I'm conserving my energy. Yeah, sure. I am uncomfortable expressing emotions other than anger. Not an angry person. I am good at marketing and selling myself and my ideas. Probably not as good as I should be. I am impatient with people who are indirect or indecisive. No, I'm actually a very patient person. I think I can kind of understand where someone is coming from. Oh, I guess it depends on how much I like and know the person, huh? Tell them to sometimes, because it depends on if I'm close to the person or not. People see me as courageous and look to me as a natural leader. Sometimes people do, and I'm often surprised. I think because I can be decisive in my action, I can be concise and provide clarity, and because I can act and I can make decisions and often follow through on those decisions, people do kind of see me as someone who would be a leader. At least some people. I am an option for a leader. But if I were you, I wouldn't go with me immediately. I'll say sometimes. I am attracted to habits and routines, can relax easily and tune out reality through TV, daydreaming, a good book, etc. I can relax easily and tune out reality with TV, sure. I can be too serious and lack spontaneity. Spontaneity, lacking that is true. Too serious is not as true. I see no value in enduring suffering and pain and try to avoid it. I think there's a lot of value in enduring suffering and pain. So you shouldn't immediately avoid suffering and pain. It just depends on what your larger goal is. So I would say avoid unnecessary pain and suffering for yourself and for others. I stand up for what I want and need in life. Yes. I am extremely protective of my loved ones and feel good about helping the underdog. Yeah, I tend to be loving, caring, and supportive when not stressed. Again, it's the emotional expressivity problem. Morals and ethics are more important than compassion and tolerance. Whoa, what is that? Why? Compassion and tolerance are part of a moral code or an ethical code. How can you say that apples are more important than apples? This is weird and silly. I'm gonna go in the middle because I'm like, what are you even asking? I am motivated to feel excited, satisfied, and happy, and to do and experience more. I'll go sometimes. I easily discern what is wrong in a situation and how it could be done better. Oh yeah. I believe that my motives for helping others are noble and helpful. I think so. I'm not gullible. You must earn my trust and I will challenge your loyalty. Look, this is not okay. Challenging people's loyalty, not okay. You either trust them or you don't trust them. The trust is like learned and earned through experience in the relationship and communication. Do not challenge. You are doing a disservice to the other person, you're disrespecting them, and you're disrespecting the relationship. Don't do these stupid TikTok challenges of loyalty. They're dumb. Don't do it. I hate the challenging of loyalty thing. I am proud about being direct, telling it like it is, and expressing tough love. Yeah, but don't be an asshole about it. That's all I ask. So sometimes it depends on how it's done. I would rather be respected than liked. I think that's true. I have a strong sense of right and wrong and strive for perfection. Again, not really the perfection thing. I tend to be energetic, self-confident, and helpful when not stressed. Sure, energetic is debatable. I am assertive and like to compete and win. Assertive, sure. Competition, not as much. I listen patiently and can be very understanding and comforting to friends. Maybe not comforting. Patient and understanding, sure. When I trust people, I can let down my guard and be more sensitive. I think that's true. I am motivated by the need to be correct, fair, and self-disciplined. Fair and self-disciplined, sure. Oh, we're almost done. Good Lord. I tend to be a workaholic and a perfectionist. Only sometimes. Okay, here we go. You are the most like type 5, the investigator. Okay, thinker, innovator, observer, the head triad. Wants to reveal how the world works and to unveil the mystery of life, but is afraid of the biggest mystery, yourself. Core desire is to be capable and competent, that's true. Core sheer being incompetent. Well, that's just like the opposite, huh? That seems a little lazy. Motivates you. Being useful, competent, capable of something. Okay, this is all very light, surface level. I hate the idea of being a useless good for nothing, sure. Unstoppable effort. Yeah, this is all very, what would you call this language? Hyper buzzword, false positivity sort of language. You're great, you're awesome. It's not concerned about conveying information so much as it is conveying an emotional connotation about the information. Too saccharine, overly positive, so I don't really love that. 5s would blow other people's minds. It's so, I don't like it. It's not to say that type 5s are reptilian. The secret lizard people were the aliens, right? Feel free to reveal the secret of human evolution. These people are having a laugh. for sure. As a type 5, you are a little detached from your environment. As if you were hanging from a big balloon that keeps you living your adventure high up. What weird mental imagery. It's probably not the metaphor I would use. Imagine a hot air balloon, or something like a blimp, or, a dirigible of some sort. It's very vulnerable. It's sort of like whimsical. You could choose so many other different metaphors or images. Pop the Enneagram 5 balloon. Okay, you're sticking with the balloon imagery here. How do you love? Love is a bridge to reality. Okay, what do we mean by this? Look for long-lasting love, someone you can really trust. I mean, sure. I think someone special to share your insecurities and eccentricity with is important for everyone. Okay, this is where you start becoming assumptive, because sexuality is not connected to your personality type. It is involved in your identity, but it's kind of in its own sort of spectrum, right? It's very assumptive to tie sexuality to personality. And I don't appreciate that. Type 5s are like an old man that scares away kids that are just playing in his front yard. You know what is the rudest damn thing? I just recently bought a house, and people will cut through my yard because it's on a corner. I'm like, what the? You're like 5 feet away from my front porch. Go on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is public. It was built for you. I don't know. I am like the freaking old man curmudgeon. Get out of here. You think people won't understand things, even if you explain them, and explaining takes way too much time. That's the problem. So you just withdraw, like a crazy scientist. Keep on persevering and trying different solutions. Study and think of ways to reach your goal more effectively. It's disturbing how some people can remain attached to old beliefs. That's true. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything, and nothing can stop you. I don't know about this, bro. Okay, unhealthy 5. Empty place that has nothing to offer, nothing to give back, no place to stay, be, or feel like you belong, never return to reality. Jesus. Wow, that went highly negative. How do you address your main challenges? Connect. Dedicate at least 1 hour to doing something that involves physical activity. I do agree with that. Awareness. When a feeling comes up, count to 10 while facing it with scientific curiosity. I don't know if counting to 10 is necessary. I don't know. Start updating people on your thoughts and ask them about their projects. Yeah, I think that's true. If you can find a way to engage with other people about their passion projects, I think that's the best place to be. Okay, so that wraps up this video. It was very long. I'll have to see about editing it. How do I feel about this? I do not like the author who wrote this page. I'm sorry. I would prefer my information to be more informative than fluffy. But I understand, they're trying to sell a product. So yeah, as always, I hope you find something like this helpful. And I hope you have a wonderful day, wherever that day may find you. Even if that day finds you as yourself, the biggest mystery. Even if that day finds you as yourself. I don't know who else you would be or what else you would be, but today we are being ourselves. So enjoy.